We'll get started with Price County Executive Committee meeting. First item on the agenda is public comment and communications. Does anybody on the committee have any communications?
I'll be attending the rail meeting tomorrow.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that.
Rhinelander at that, the Woods Association. They got it.
Okay, go to public comment. There's nobody here. That's Paula signed in. No comment. Anybody online? *6 to unmute for public comment. And okay, no public comment. Now maybe I should call the roll because I failed to do that.
Good morning. Alan Barkstrom.
Here.
Doug Erickson is excused. Brian Ernst.
Here.
Jeff Hallstrand. Larry Palachuk. Thank you.
Okay, next up, meeting minutes from June 12th, 2025. Look for a motion to approve. Motion by Palachuk, second by Barkstrom. Any discussion? I know Meredith has a correction.
I just have one correction on number 10 for the resolution land record software. That last sentence, it says at an annual cost of $32,510. That was changed originally when I sent them out. I had 21,000 and that was updated by finance for the correct number of 32,510, which is reflected in your current minutes. So the original copy is incorrect. And also the last number was also changed, which says Transcendent would efficiently replace 3 computer programs, which currently cost the county about $31,210. That was changed from $20,000. So just an update. It is correct now.
So what you have in your packet is correct. But if you printed off the original one, it's been updated. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Item 3, Treasurer's Report. Renee,
Good morning.
good morning.
So the reports you have are the most up to date with the monies, and we put some into some CDs, as you can see on the treasurer report. And those are locked in for 2 and 3 years. Any questions on the reports that you have? Okay.
Apparently none, so we can move on to
In REM.
3B,
Yeah.
delinquent taxes in REM.
So we are down to 3 parcels that will be going to the court on the 18th of July. So those 3 parcels with the remaining parcels from previous years to go to auction will be a total of 21 parcels, but there will be 15 lots in the auction because some of those parcels are put together in a lot for the auction.
Yeah, so when we go to auction, so like Renee said, there's 21 total tax IDs. But what we talked about, we could sell each one as an individual tax ID. The issue is there's 2 areas that are covered by multiple lots. So for example, one of them is tax ID 22559, which is the 5R property. And if you look at the map, the 5R property actually has 5 different parcels, and like the building's on 2 parcels, and then all the surrounding land is another parcel here, another parcel there. So we could auction them all off as individual parcels, but it doesn't make sense because if an individual were to buy half the building and then another individual would win the bid on the other half of the building, it turns into not our problem, but a problem, right? So Evan and I talked, a couple others talked, that the 5R property, which is, like I said, 22559, 60, 61, 62, and 63. All those properties will get a single CMA or will be one lot when we auction it off. And then also there's a property on Highway 8, so W9212 or tax ID 22567 and 22568, which is like a sliver of land with a property that had a building. So those two we also combined. When it comes down to it, out of the 21, we'll have potentially 15 auction lots. We might have one that's indicated that they're interested in paying prior to the auction, but if we don't see that, we would have the 15.
Okay,
Is there a minimum bid on the
Yep.
5R
We don't know what that'll be yet. So with our new ordinance, we worked on a RFP, which is a request for proposal for realtors to give us that minimum bid. So under the new ordinance, you have to do the first auction or first sale at market value. So we're putting out a RFP for a comparative market analysis or a CMA. That CMA we'll do it on 15 lots, which is 21 properties. They'll give us a number with evidence of why this they would list it or it would go on the market for $300,000. We then will start the auction at that as the minimum. If it does not sell, anybody can come in for 30 days, 60 days. I can't remember what the ordinance is offhand, but they could come in with cash to the treasurer's office and buy the property, not pay the auction fees, all that stuff. After that first auction and a small period of time, we'll auction them again. And our ordinance says that the second auction starts at the minimum that is owed to us. So 5R is a bad example, but any other property that we took, say the one on Argyle, there's $11,000 in back taxes and fees. We'll start the bidding at $11,000. If it goes up, great, but our goal is just to make our money back. The 5R one's unique because we partnered with the DNR. The DNR footed the bill, but there was $1 million cleanup that happened out there. So technically, we're not sure how the proceeds will work on that one because is it you pay back the DNR for the cleanup? There's a big minimum then you'd never sell it for that minimum. But so that one's a little bit unique. That's why we don't use that as an example. But yeah, the Argyle one, you'd start at, market says it's 20, doesn't sell. Okay, now we're down to 11 because that's what's owed. Oh, doesn't sell again. We'll then put it at $100 and it usually sells for 15 then. It's auction. It's an odd thing.
and that 5R, okay, so it's, in theory, it's cleaned up. Is there some kind of paperwork that says that whoever buys it is not going to be responsible for any future cleanup in case something was
Yeah,
missed?
it was not land. It was not permeable.
Oh, it was strictly
cleanup,
just
It was junk all over. So they could have all the reports saying, "Yep, clean up the lead glass, whatever it was. Leaded glass was cleaned up, so it was just tons of scrap and leaded glass. So there was no permeable
Okay,
contaminants. So they could have that report. That's
but
not an issue.
any potential buyer would not be liable for anything. It should be
Yeah,
taken care of.
yeah. What we believe is out there was
But
taken
DNR
care of.
signed off.
No,
signed
we
off
didn't
on it.
do soil samples and dig deep, that would be a different issue.
Well, we didn't have any reason to, I don't believe, right?
No, and don't quote me on this. I know it's being recorded, but there is something where if the county ever takes land, they're always responsibility for any future
Okay.
non-provable. Like if I bought the property and just started dumping oil, yeah, you can tell it's me. But like if I bought the property and all of a sudden it showed that we had a pile of salt there and we were always responsible for that kind of stuff.
Okay,
Did the DNR put in a claim?
No, it was earmarked money, two biennials ago.
So they just cleaned it up, walked away.
Mhm.
I thought it was more than $1 million. I thought it was closer to 2.
Yeah, it was 2.5 or 7, but that included 3 properties, one in Ladysmith, one
Oh,
in Price
okay.
County, and one in West Bend, which is Washington County.
Is it a Waukesha County?
West Bend. It was
It's
West
Waukesha
Bend.
County.
So those were the 3. That's why it was 2.67.
Renee, how about that one in Prentice? Did anybody figure out if anybody's living there? If it-
Oh. Renee is a great PI.
I just did a drive-by. I did not look in windows or knock on
Right.
any doors yet. It doesn't appear to be, but who knows? There's, the lawn is not mowed. There's branches on the,
We
porch.
preface it as we may not want to live there, but that doesn't mean
but that,
somebody.
yeah,
It appears that it's not maintained and
it's not being maintained.
Yes.
Okay.
So we
Yes.
will after the court date. Evan and I usually go down because we have a responsibility to insure them and lock them. So we'll go. Shouldn't say lock, secure them. we say secure.
And the other two are vacant, so
okay.
on the ones that we're taking
Mhm,
this year.
Anything else regarding?
What do you think our chances of selling 5R is?
Pretty good.
We used to get a lot of phone calls, and those same people kept calling, but we just kept saying we don't know what the timeline will be. Evan does send out a packet to anybody who's ever requested. I know those individuals were on a list. The things we were getting called for was an implement store or implement repair and dealer. We had somebody that wanted to start like a trucking type thing out of it. So I think there's people with ideas. I don't know. It's a nice building.
Yeah, it's a
I mean,
beautiful building if you get it for the right price.
I think you came down and saw it mid cleanup.
Yeah,
so,
they were still cleaning it.
Yeah. I don't think we'll sell it at the first auction if that helps. But you never know. Somebody might really want it.
Okay, we'll move on then if there's nothing else from the treasurer. Thank you. County Administrator, 4A, 2025 Financial Report.
All right, we can start working on that. Wasn't ready to share here. Oops. Oh, so you should have your packet. Let's see if I can. The first page. Oh, did you want to go? No, it was in here too. Brenton, you didn't go over your sheet. Did you want to talk about anything with CDs or loans?
Oh, no, they don't.
Okay, you have it in your packet. We did add some additional funding to a ladder of CDs a month ago. So
Yeah, a couple $1 million worth, if I
Yeah.
remember right.
yep. So we have money that sits in our reserves. We looked at our cash flow and said, okay, that money can be put into a CD so we can earn some additional interest.
And we have to have a certain balance kept
Yep.
in reserve.
We're
not just
recommended to
sitting
have
on
90
money
days.
and then keeping the taxes high. We can't spend it.
Correct. We don't want to be down at zero at the end of the year. We're recommended to have 90 days worth of expenses. All right, the first page or second page of your report would be we're at 50% of the year. Nothing really jumps out. We talked about the jail, sheriff's department, that we're seeing additional costs. I mean, everybody was talking about it earlier. There was a case that just got closed, or they did the search warrants on and caught 8 or 9 individuals. Those take a lot of people hour and resources. So those are the type of things you're seeing that create that higher cost in the sheriff's department. We did adjust from the year before, but we still believe we'll be slightly over in the sheriff's department and the jail. Other than that, forestry is doing really well with stumpage, but nothing stands out over the last month. Health and Human Services. This again, we're at 51% or 50% of the year. We're at 51%. That's a little bit of concerning because they're usually about a month to 2 months behind. However, we know some of the reasoning behind it. We had a Health and Human Services meeting yesterday. We have 2 individuals in high cost placements that are averaging between like $14,000 and $22,000 a month per person. One of them we believe is pretty much permanent for the next 2 years. And then the other one, we have our fingers crossed that should end here in the next month or 2. Those are things you try to budget for. We just don't, we can't just put an insurance fund, a budget in every year for it. So this year will definitely be a spike. We haven't had two individuals like that for a while. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the budget.
Where are they placed, Nick?
I can't remember. It was like Hope House, and so I don't. They're in Wisconsin. The one we're really happy with the facility. It's working really well. Yeah, the Home for Boy. Yeah, but the one was when we talked about. Kayla came in and gave us an update. We know it's a long-term one. We believe that this is where the individual will be able to stay. We're happy with the staff that's working with them. What would happen though if that individual can't stay there? They're at the top tier of what's available, and then we're talking like $30,000 or $40,000 a month, and going to Missouri or Tennessee or Louisiana because no one in the state would take that individual. So,
Is that the one whose residency might change, your parents' residency?
yeah.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
one.
So that one we know is going to be through older age, till aged out, but there is a potential that the individual's responsible party would no longer be located in Price County. So then the other county after 60 days or 30 days or 6 months,
6
that's what it
months.
was, 6 months would take over that case. So it's still a state problem, still a county problem. It's just the cost gets switched. So again, hopefully, fingers crossed, all this is just a 1-year blip and we don't continue to see this on the high costs. We're also seeing we went from 14 cases to 30 some cases for CCS, which is behavioral health. You'll see that in a second. A lot of that programming though is state covered. So that was a CCS program was placed 3-4 years ago. It was under Maryland. When Maryland Schroeder was here, we started that program because it's
3-4 years ago. That was.
It's been a while,
2016.
but it was a program that started when she was here towards her end of her tenure. But that one is a reimbursable program, so that helps quite a bit. Other funds, the dog, we had a couple they're bigger cases that do run that up. But I think those have been cleaned up, so we shouldn't have a daily bill on those. Veteran service, we're doing fine. Library, that's a one-time. Airport, you guys approved us to keep moving forward with some project stuff we're doing out there with the survey, the BFI project. So a survey was needed, but otherwise they're doing good. Their revenues are up this year, so we're seeing a lot of fuel. Everybody's paying their rent. Highway, it's project time, so we'll see the big bill come eventually where it's like $1 million for asphalt or $2 million check or whatever it might. It won't be a check anymore. It'll be a
It's
direct
ACH,
deposit,
yes.
ACH. They've signed up. They want their money quick. Cash, we're definitely lower than we have been in the past. We're down to $8 million. We were at 11.9 last year at this time. Again, that's just projects coming in, projects going out. That's timing. I know it's tax time, so we'll start to see a bump in collections there. Sales tax, April, we were up 3%, or we were up 3% total for the year. We're a little bit less than April last year at this time. So April in 2024, we had 93,632. April 2025, we had 89,206. Overall, we believe we'll hit our budget. Stumpage, we're at $950,788, which is almost twice. It's a little over almost twice. We're just short of twice what we were last year by $500, if anybody. So we're happy we're catching up on some of those contracts that are sitting out there. So that's been helpful. High cost placements, we're at 109%, so we're double what we did last year at this time. And that's where we talked about those two high cost individuals that are starting to add up. AODA, high cost placements, this is about half of what we were last year at this time. And again, that's really just where you're allocating those individual costs. So last year they were in one department and we were really low in the other. So it's how they're classified that year based on their treatments. Health insurance, we're positive, so that's a positive note. We started the year negative 279,388. We've ended the June with 46,303. So we have gained about $330,000 in that account to keep us in the black instead of the red. I didn't print it out for you guys, but I'll probably do it at a future meeting. We did get an updated report from Tailored. And we've saved like 300 some $1,000 so far by using Tailored Family Clinic this year. So it's been a really, really good program. Those people who have used it love it. We're seeing a lot of people who would have had to go to Medford or Prentice or wherever to get their labs, and the labs were $1,500 every time. Well, Tailored can do them for $300 or $400 based on our contract. So they would have already hit their deductible. We'd be paying the $1,500 to whatever medical provider. Now we're paying $400 to get that same thing. So we're saving 50 to 100% every time an individual goes and uses that service. So it's worked out really well.
Yeah, I haven't heard one bad comment.
Yeah, they're
Negative comment, and
good
it's
service.
good for both us and the employee.
Yeah, and we just signed up for next year to use a new product called Health Check 360 or Health 360, something 360. And what that'll be is it's directed care. So we still have to set all the limits. But we're contracted to do it for next year. So we'll be letting employees know going into next year, where Nick goes into Tailored and he sprained his knee or whatever, and they say, oh, you need knee surgery or you need blah, 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 or an MRI even. MRI is an easy one. They'll go into this app, this 360, and it'll say, okay, here's your options. Under your health insurance, you could go to Aspirus. It'll be approximately $3,600. You could drive to Wausau, which will be $600. If you choose Wausau's MRI of Wausau, you'll save the county $3,000. You as an employee, then when it's still on your deductible, it's still your medical cost, but you save a whole bunch of medical costs. But as a county, because you're helping us go to a much cheaper option, we'll give you a percentage of the savings up to $10,000. So that in that situation, you save $3,000. So we'll give you a check for 15% of that. So you get, $400, which pays for almost your MRI in that case. So the bigger ones you see are knee surgeries, shoulders, elbows, where it's like you go to Wausau, it's $60,000. But if you go over to the cities, we'll pay for your hotel, we'll give you a percentage of the change, and it only costs $23,000. So you save the county $30,000. The county's got to write you a check for $9,000, which pays your deductible, pays your stay, pays for somebody else to drive you back and forth, all, time off, whatever you need, but you save the county 20 net. So that's the program we're building up right now and how it'll work. And then we're also one with health. We have a lot of pre-diabetic individuals. So there's a program that we're looking into that'll hopefully keep people off the $1,000 a month medication. And it's a reasonable price. So those are the things we're doing with health insurance to try to manage the cost. Any questions about the health insurance or health insurance fund?
Any questions or comments on the report in general? Now we'll move on to Agenda 5, Register of Deeds.
All right,
Sylvia.
good morning.
Morning.
Just a recap on June in the Register of Deeds office. In June, we recorded 315 documents. And in street sales, our transfer value was just over $8.9 million. We processed 44 vital records applications, issuing 153 vital records. So
Busy.
yeah, comfortably busy.
Sylvia, do you still have that program where you surveil activity, and if somebody If somebody's trying to steal somebody's property, you notify them?
Sure, yes, property fraud alert.
You had to sign up for that, right?
Property owners can sign up for that at any time. So we did send out the slips and the tax bills the last 2 years, but that's an ongoing program, so people can sign up anytime they want.
A lot of
Once you,
takers? A lot of takers?
yeah, I think we've got over 2,000 subscribers, so that's fantastic. And it works. People call us when something's recorded that they don't remember was going to be recorded, and we verify with them, yes, it was recorded. So it's been a very good service for people, just for a little bit of a sense of security. Of course, it can't stop fraud from happening. You know, my authority to record documents is on recordability, not intent or accuracy.
You have to record it.
I have to record it if it's recordable. That's my authority. But yes,
It's
property.
just you notify the people involved in it.
Well, if they're signed up for property fraud alert, they do get that alert. I don't contact them personally if I suspect
Somebody
something.
does.
If they're subscribed, yes, they get an alert.
Anything else for Sylvia? Okay, thank you. Item 6, resolution, Apostle Islands National Park Resolution, came from the Executive Committee. Supporting the potential designation of the Apostle Islands as a national park. Whereas the Apostle Islands located in Lake Superior off the coast of Ashland, Bayfield County represent a unique natural and cultural treasure of regional significance and et cetera. You can read it, you have it in your packet. Now therefore be it resolved that the Price County Board of Supervisors acknowledges that the designation of the Apostle Islands as a national park would likely have a positive impact on Price County. And be it further resolved that this resolution is adopted solely as an expression of acknowledgement and support for the potential benefits to Price County, without intent to interfere with or direct the decision-making process of Ashland, Bayfield County, or other authorities. Submitted by the Price County Executive Committee. Okay, this was, I'll say sponsored by Alan to get on the agenda. Tom Tiffany is the one that's spearheading it in Congress. The closest counties to the Apostle Islands are against it. I can let you. Give us
Yeah,
some more
I
info on that,
was
Nick.
contacted by Ashland and Bayfield County when they knew this was a potential resolution for us, and both counties passed a resolution opposing the making Apostle Islands a national lakeshore. So they oppose this request by Tom Tiffany. So you guys, that's both sides. You have a resolution and a request. They did oppose.
And in our packet, we've got Tiffany's questions and answers as far as concerns that have been brought to his office. So looking for a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Barkstrom. Do I have a second? Second by Hallstrand. Any further discussion?
Why are the counties against it yet?
I can share there.
I can talk a little bit about that too. It was brought up at our Northwest Regional.
Go ahead,
meeting.
Jeff.
Go ahead. And, yeah.
So Bayfield County said that their infrastructure can't handle the amount of people that will come in. Cause there's this worldwide circuit that visits all the national parks. And what they're saying is that their restaurants and everything, these are seasonal businesses and they all shut down. Whereas Apostle Islands, if it becomes a national park, will not become seasonal. Now, I personally have a hard time wrapping my head around, we don't want any more business and we don't want our businesses to stay open year round. But that was the rationale that was given at the meeting, that they're not looking for this huge influx of people. But I will tell you another thing that we just had that's going to have the same effect. The gentleman who owns Copper Ski Hill up in the UP is sticking $40 million into that and putting it on the international FISA circuit. And he said that's going to bring, at different times of the year, 40,000 people. And it's going to affect us down here because they said on average, those people will drive 3 to 4 hours to stay away from where their event is at. So when he did his circles And there again, it's gonna, he tied it in with this Apostle Islands thing that these people will come here and they'll look for things like that to do. So they'll stay here and spend money. But that was, both Ashland and Bayfield expressed a concern that they didn't have the infrastructure to support the people when they come.
Yeah, a lot of their objection looks like through their resolution was the fun, like there was no discussion with us. You guys, as a federal, there's no infrastructure. We need, if you're going to do this, it's less about we're against it, but you have to invest in the infrastructure, whether it's people like right now, the U.S. Forest Service doesn't put enough people even to keep the visitor center open. And now you're talking about like the year round. So it was, they're opposed to it because of the plan, not because they don't want a national park. It just wasn't.
That was one of their other big complaints. That they don't feel the proper vetting process has been done for
They didn't
this.
do a
That,
public hearing.
you know, there's no public hearings been had, but yet Tiffany's office said, here's the letters where we sent them out to everybody. So everybody has been. So it's kind of one of these going on, but yeah, they were not happy feeling that, you know, if the federal wants to step in and take over this park, then they need to do a little bit better job at planning for what the locals are going to need.
Mr. Bergstrom.
I had read in some information that there should have been a feasibility study done. And I asked for a feasibility for that document if it did exist, and apparently it has not. That's not to say that it won't exist at some point in time. Because when you think about it, infrastructure, you got one road going up into you got Highway 13, you know, and there'll be a lot more traffic, but something like this doesn't come along very often as far as a national park. I'm sure glad that some of our past leaders found their way to make Yellowstone and all those parks, and I go to them. I like going up to Bayfield, you know. I looked at, I was curious as to why the opposition to that. And there was all kinds of yard signs and advertising the National Lakeshore. So I went online and found it, and it was just a positive about the national. There was nothing opposing what this park is. So I certainly wouldn't think that we would want to stand in the way of that. I thought the frequently asked questions were very well done. It seems like everything was asked, and we're not really adjoining them, but I would certainly not think that we should stand in the way of that.
One of their other oppositions was 39,000 acres of land, which is now open for recreational activity, would prohibit hunting and trapping, which is a big thing for up in that.
But if
area.
you read, my understanding of, you know, what's in our packet from Tiffany, what's available to hunt now will
It was kind
continue
of
to
like
be,
it was going to just stay the same.
stay the same.
Yeah.
Most national parks aren't.
But
There's different
there's-
regulations.
I mean, we
so
can go
that's-
through it and look at
Yeah,
it.
I'm just telling you this is what they have in their resolution. I didn't do any of my own.
They call it, they got a name for it, but the current, it's gonna be status quo, let's say, as far as hunting and recreating. That's my understanding from reading this from Tiffany's
Yeah,
office.
I didn't. I'm just passing on what I got from the two counties.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote.
You better take a roll.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. All in favor of roll call vote?
Just
Okay.
go around.
Alan Barkstrom,
Yes.
Doug Erickson is absent, Brian Ernst,
Yes.
Jeff Hallstrand, and Larry Palachuk.
Motion carried. And this is just saying that we're okay with it. We're not
Well,
committing to anything.
Now we're going to submit it to the full board. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But even
It's
when
a-
it gets through the
kind of
full
a big
board.
deal, you know, a national park in Wisconsin.
Do you want anything else from anybody for the board meeting? Any information?
Well, if Bayfield National Counties are adamant about not wanting it a national park, maybe we should see if they got any more information other than what we've already heard.
That's their battle to fight too.
Well, and we also could have Tiffany's office come here and
Yeah,
give
we
a
get
little-
both sides, yeah.
so.
Do you
yeah,
want him here?
Sure.
I think so, yeah.
I'll ask.
Yeah, he'll come.
At our August meeting.
That's when it would
Yeah.
be about August.
Sure. Okay. Item 7, resolution Town of Prentice Bridge and Culvert Aid came from Highway and Transportation. Whereas the Town of Prentice is requesting aid for design and installation of a new culvert bridge on Spring Road over Mondo, and whereas the Price County Highway and Transportation Committee has reviewed and approved the request, and project costs are estimated at $32,000, actual cost to be determined. 50% county, 50% Town of Prentice. Fiscal impact $16,000. Looking for a motion to approve. Motion by Hallstrand, second by Pavlicek. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Next item, resolution, Town of Elk Bridge and Culvert Aid. Again, from Highway and Transportation, Town of Elk Bridge and Culvert Aid requests, whereas the Town of Elk is requesting aid for design and installation of a new culvert bridge on East Wilson Floyd Road over Wilson Lake. And whereas the Price County Highway and Transportation Committee has reviewed and approved the request, it's $24,000, 50% Price County, 50% Town of Elk. Fiscal impact is $12,000. Motion to approve. Pavlicek, second by Hallstrand. Any discussion regarding this? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 9, discuss establishing the ad hoc committee for opioid funding. This is just a requirement as part of the opioid settlement agreement. And we talked about it a little bit at the Health and Human Services meeting yesterday, and we've talked about it here in the past. Any updates,
Yeah.
Nick?
Okay, so what needs to happen is in order to spend the opioid funds, like Brian said, was we have to have an ad hoc committee that would recommend the spending to a committee and then to the full board. So I asked Sarah and her staff to come up with a list of what other counties did, because a lot of them kind of centralize out of that Health and Human Services area. And I can open it up here. She came up with a list of, let's see here. I'm opening it up right now. Oops. Of individuals. Now, the actual names that are behind some of them, that's just kind of a recommendation. It would have to be appointed. So we have, in the resolution that we eventually create, we have to make a general bylaws, who appoints who to this committee, how it gets established. But we would have someone from the Office of Administration or myself, or designee, Health and Human Services Board. So that would be a county board member. Price County Health and Human Service Director, Sarah, or designee. Price County Health and Human Services Health Officer, right now it's Tiffany, or designee. Human Services Behavioral Health, Human Services Children and Youth, Human Services Coalition, which does a lot with the opioid education. We'd have someone from Marshfield, someone from Aspirus, Probation and Parole, the Sheriff's Office, Phillips Police, Park Falls Police, and then the 3 school districts. So this is what would be the makeup of that committee to make suggestions on how to spend the opioid funding. So today is just a discussion to say, does this look like a right mix of individuals? And then at the next meeting, we'll have a resolution with these positions named, not the people. That was just our notes. So the positions, and then who would appoint them to this group. And then I'm assuming 3 to 5 total meetings over the next year. First one would just, you'd meet to say, here's what we're here for, start thinking about it. The second one would be, hey, we came up with these ideas. The third one would be making that recommendation to Health and Human Services, executive, whoever, which then would be like a resolution made by them to go to the full board. So we've been saving up this money now for 2 years. We've been getting some of it. There's about $120,000 to $140,000 so far. We average about 8 to 12,000 new dollars. We got some big chunks on the first 2 years, but we average about say $12,000 a year of new money. So it's not a big game changer where you see some of these counties are getting $400,000 or $500,000 a year, and they're making rehabilitation homes and bigger services. So
So you can't see any buildings going up.
no, not with what we're getting.
Is
Even
that
if you
right?
said regionally, I mean, we've all talked regionally saying, even if we pooled our money, we couldn't create a service provider for opioid.
That's gonna be
use.
tough to find a way to spend that money.
Not really. We've talked about it over the last couple of years where there's like the sheriff's office, they handle opioids. So like if you were opening like the drug bust, the meth, if there was fentanyl or opioids in it, it could get on officers' hands or they could inhale it. So there's equipment we could buy that would be like hoods that would be a negative pressure. So when you open the baggies to test them, it would go not into their face. There's things like that. There's advertisements. A lot of counties are doing billboards and educational things. So
So can I interrupt? We have
Yeah.
a total of just about 200,000 is
Ooh,
what we
got a
collected so
new
far.
jump. Yeah.
And the grand total we're supposed to get projected is 624,000.
So we're a third of the way there. And that might go down because we're doing settlements. What's that?
2038.
Mr. Holstrom.
Just a suggestion for your list, being as we're promoting Taylor Family Health, maybe reach out to them, see if they'd like somebody there. We've got Marshfield and Aspirus. Let's include them
Okay. Yeah.
in it.
Any other comments?
Oops.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item. County Fiscal Policy Handbook. Last executive meeting, we got a copy of this handbook with the revisions. Basically, it was cleaning up grammar, revised definitions of micro, small, and large purchases. The revision being the stated amounts. And it's also reflecting, book is reflecting what our actual processes are at the current time, and also timesheet process and addressing budget overages was another main item.
And when we say processes, it wasn't that we were going against our fiscal handbook process. It was more of you guys, we came to you and said, oh, we're going to change how we do time cards. And you guys approved that kind of thing. And so we're just updating this.
So it's kind of like
Centralized.
ISO 9000. You say what you're going to do and you do what you're going to say. And this is just reflecting what we're doing.
Correct. Yeah.
But we've been following book.
We've been following the book, and then if we knew something was changing, we'd bring it to a committee saying, hey, are you okay via resolution or motion if we do this? We just were really bad at keeping the book up to date for those type of actions. So when Carrie went through this, she said, okay, where did we change what we're doing based on what you guys told us to do? So now it should align better.
Right.
Or if the state
For a
changed
motion?
too. Yeah. Yep.
And is this gonna go then to the full board?
Yes. For
Yeah,
the
so
full
we'll
board
need a
will
motion
accept it.
to-
Yes to both questions?
Yes.
So I'll make a motion to approve it and send it on to the full board.
Okay, motion by Markstrom, second by Hallstrand. Y'all got the book in your handout.
A lot of work went into that.
Yeah.
A lot of red.
Is there any other comments? Discussion?
So what it'll be is today we'll do the motion to say we think it's looking good. Next executive committee meeting, we'll bring a clean copy with a resolution like we do with the handbook. This is the 2025 updated version. This resolution says we're going to use this version, and then the full board would see it in August.
You want to read the resolution?
Motion, you mean?
Or motion, I should say.
Motion Barkstrom, second Hallstrand to approve and send to the full board the county fiscal policy handbook.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, if there's no other comments, suggestions, go ahead and vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, now the fun one. Number 11, 2026 budget.
No. So it's going to sound a little doom and gloom. I have a list here, and it's not, it's everything we've been talking about, just put all in one list. So if you start to hear what I go through, it's like, oh, we talked about that in April, or, oh, we talked about that last year at this time. It's just when you put it all together, it's like, whoa, there's a lot going on. So, we know, the biggest thing that we're looking at right now with the budget is the cost of health insurance. We're breaking even. We're doing well this year on that fund balance, but we know the cost of health insurance is continually going up, and we don't have additional revenues to offset that. So right now, that's probably our biggest hurdle, is just the cost of health insurance and including that into the budget. We're looking at employee wages. We really don't have, with the cost of health insurance and some of the other things, there's not a lot of room. So right now we're going based off a 0% increase on the wage schedule, which would be the COLA, the across the board type thing. However, employees would still get their annual step. So there would still be wage increases. It just wouldn't be across the board. It would just be their step. So a longevity is a way to look at it. What I'm working with Laura and Jennifer, is what are some of the other things that would be less expensive than a wage increase? So about 1% wage increase is about $90,000 across the board after revenues and expenses and everything. So what are some options we can look at that would be a benefit to the employee, but not as expensive as a wage increase? So through the state, I can't remember if it's ETF or WRS that has the life insurance.
Isn't ETF and WRS the same?
Yes, one of the acronyms
Right.
that we would be allowed to do through the state, a life insurance policy on every employee. Laura just said they're the same also. So through WRS, we would do a life insurance policy based on your wage. So there's a schedule of cost that if you were to pass away, your family would get 1 times your wage for the year. And then the employee would also have an option to buy additional life insurance through that program. Looking at the cost, it's much less than the 1% wage increase over the cost over cost. But it is a nice benefit that we don't currently offer, where a lot of employers
Be
do.
optional to the employee.
No, we would just, everybody would get
Everybody
it.
gets it.
Everybody would get 1 times their wage coverage as life insurance with a beneficiary. And then the employee's option would be to have additional life insurance. They would pay then out of their
Right now, they
pocket.
don't have it.
No, we have like 100% employee paid. So like if I wanted to use
So the
Through-
benefit is 1 year salary?
1 year salary, and then if you wanted more, the employee could buy more. You could do an enhancer. So that's one thing we looked at as a benefit. So you're still getting something to offset, not getting a 0%. I talked about health insurance. That's our big one. We are still working with Tailored. It's working out really well. We've included new programs, or we're starting to add new programs to, again, mitigate that cost. So upfront, there's a little bit of cost, but in the long run, it saves you. Some of the requests that right now are not included in the budget is we had departments ask for 5 new employees across the county. And those would be in IT department, Register of Deeds, Health and Human Services, social worker, highway and mechanic, and then the Office of Administration and other accountant positions. So those are just on a list for the long term, where we know eventually we're going to have to start looking at those positions because of the workload. But I don't see where we would have the revenues this year or the offset to include any of those.
What's causing the extra workload?
State.
Just more regulation,
like
more
the
red tape.
like highway, the mechanic would be, we now are doing all of our maintenance in-house for our squad cars, and we're getting more squad cars because we're working towards take-home squads, and it's just we're doing a lot more basic maintenance there. So that one, social worker we talked about, that's where, is it the gift program? It's Bobby Joe's
Bobby
position.
Joe's position. But yeah, her case.
Birth to 3.
CCS, I think.
Whatever Bobby Joe's.
Caseloads right now.
Yeah.
from-
Yeah, so she's currently managing 54 cases, and the state average is 24 per employee. So that's one where she's doing a great job, but it's kind of one of those where if you've done it for 30 years, you're really efficient, really good, but at some point you're not going to be there, and we need to prepare for those positions. Same with like in our office, the accounting position. I know Carrie's sitting here, but she is 3 people in one. And eventually, with all the new state mandates and all the reporting and all the accounting stuff we do, we are going to need to look at like an accountant too. So a lesser position, but something that's going to relieve the long-term workload. What else? IT. We know TJ is getting close to the end of his tenure. Melissa's been great. She's been here, I believe, 10 years now. But more computers, more software, more programs, more cybersecurity. It's just becoming, we're contracting a lot of things out that need to start coming back in-house. And then Sylvia and I have been talking, we do need to be vigilant at having that backup for when it's tax time. We do all our GIS mapping out of county now. And so eventually it would be better to bring it back in-house, have a backup, and have somebody do mapping. Again, those are our long-term. Nothing that I've talked to is an emergency. Like, oh my gosh, how do we fit this in? Do we cut a highway operator so that we can do something here? Do we cut a deputy? Whatever it might. I don't think we're at any of those levels through attrition, but we do need to be aware that those are some needs. Just like health insurance, where we're seeing a huge cost increase that we can't keep up with, is software and IT costs. So everybody's transitioning to, it used to be you spend $500,000 and you just get the software. Now it's you spend $400,000, but every year for the next 20 years, you owe us $50,000 to keep up with it. So, and then every 20 minutes, it seems like, oh, it was $8 an employee per month. Now it's $8.70. Now it's $9.25. Now it's this. So TJ's really getting beat up. Every other day he calls and he's like, they just changed our contract for next year. It's going to be 30 cents more a person. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but it adds up. It's 10%, it's 15%. And those aren't just in the IT area. So we have our financial software, which just got bought out.
Yep.
We have all of the software we're talking about in Register of Deeds, the zoning area, Sheriff's Department, their contract for all their software goes up exponentially every year. So, and it's a lot to do with cybersecurity. It's not just like, hey, they're sitting on their laurels, and it's updating their programming and having programmers. And so that one's kicking us. Property insurance, or just, I shouldn't say property, liability, property, and work comp. Every year, it's just one of those that the cost of replacing a squad car goes up. And so they say, oh, insurance goes up, the cost of a building goes up. One area that we've been well aware of for like 2-3 years now is our property. If you look at our list of property, and this isn't our fault, this is all the whole system's fault. Like if you look at a building like this, on our list, it says, oh, it's insured for replacement value at $8 million. Well, I can tell you, to replace a building like this, the courthouse, is not $8 million. It's $28 million. So what they do is they say, oh, it's worth $8 million. You pay 15 cents per thousand. Well, if they actually insured it for the value, we'd pay 10 times what we currently pay for insurance. So the insurance model is really messed up, and they're slowly coming around and saying, okay, we're going to, over the next 3 years, we're going to bring those to the proper insurable levels. I have been assured multiple times, Carrie's been in the meetings, that if a building like this were to have damage and it was above that number, we still have coverage because we have county-wide collaborative coverage or whatever, where it's like you add all your buildings up and blah, blah, blah. So I'm not worried about us being underinsured. I'm worried about the insurance companies retooling how they do charging the cost. So those are the real hurdles that Carrie's been dealing with when putting the budget together.
So who is our carrier for county insurance?
Aegis, County Mutual, and MPEC.
Aegis and County Mutual are the
So
same.
they specialize.
They're
in-
under one roof.
And then, and then MPIC is our property, County Mutual is, or Aegis is our liability, and West Bend Mutual is our
Workers'
workers'
comp.
comp.
Do they specialize in?
Yep.
in
Yes.
Yep.
County stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, so like County Mutual is what 80% of the counties have. MPEC is what most, because a lot of places don't, like you couldn't go down to Forward Insurance and go, hey, can you insure our buildings? They'd be like, yeah, we can, but it's going to be 5 times as much.
And when we switched from County Mutual to MPIC that's when we really realized
How
how
under,
underinsured our.
because one of
buildings
them went on, well, didn't go under. They struggled for years because do you remember there was lightning hit over in Oneida or Lincoln where their shop burned down and then somebody else's shop burned down. And it's great when nobody has any major claims and you're all just paying 30 or 40% of what you should, but all of a sudden you have two $20-40 million claims. It adds up.
Everybody pitches in.
Yeah.
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 So those are the big issues. With the budget, one thing I know we've said no new borrowing. Our goal is no new borrowing. But one area I probably will bring forward is when high cost placements, we budget say $1 million. And we know this year our high cost placements are going to be $1.4 million. So we're taking $400,000 out of our fund balance, our cash balance. Under the state statute, if the judge has issued the placement, so it's a judgment, we can borrow money and take it out of our operation. And so I'm based on when we get towards the end of the year, what our cash is, where we're at, I might recommend saying, okay, we went over by $400,000 in order not to have a problem 3-4 years from now and have to do a big borrow to give us cash. We may want to look at doing a one-time repay ourselves and say, this is the cost of having this individual. Sorry, we have to pay ourselves back. So we're back at zero because our operation can't go up. We can't take it from the operation. So it's a strategy we're looking at if we feel that there's a need, right? We don't want to get too low in cash 3 years from now because this happens 2-3 times and then all of a sudden go, we need 1.2 million to get back to where we are. If we could do it one time and hopefully not have it happen again, it's one and done. We will have some lower costs on the levy with bridge and culvert aid. So you'll see the levy could go down there, which this would offset it slightly. I would make this very clear. It's a one-time, or I shouldn't say it's based solely on these high costs. And we're not doing it to do roads. We're replenishing what we had to use in our cash balance.
And I know there's no answer to this, but my concern is that's a black hole.
And some
We borrow
counties have
now and
seen-
then we get 3 or 4 in a year.
Yeah, Sawyer County had $1.2 million of
We're going
overages
to-
last year for it.
That's a hole you're never going to dig out of. You gotta-
Unless you manage it like
the
this.
state,
up
there's,
front,
yeah, but still, even if you
Fiscal
manage
hole,
it
yeah.
that way, you still got to make the payments.
Oh yeah, the fiscal hole, at least we can borrow and stop that. It's a cost to the community that that's the black hole portion.
Right.
Yeah. But that's where you guys have a tough job because you have to make that choice to raise that little bit of levy to offset it for something that's really frustrating. That is that black hole, that it's a mandated service. We try our best to do things up front to prevent it, but it still happens.
My point is, we do it now because we got 2. What if we get 2 more next year and then we're going to have to borrow again and
Yeah.
again and again? And
But
that
hopefully
is
you
going to
don't.
keep
Yeah.
getting bigger and bigger.
Otherwise, it comes
I
out of
know there's no
operation.
answer,
Yeah.
no fix. I'm just making a comment.
Right. So if we don't use it as borrowing, like say next year it's going to happen again, we then have to say, okay, highway, this happened. You always bring this up. We started taking from highway 700,000, $1 million, and now all of a sudden we're borrowing for it to make up for all those rash. Like we can't raise the levy for these high cost placements. So then other areas get really beat up, and we don't have the areas to get beat up anymore. I mean, highway has a little bit.
Yeah,
That's about
yeah,
it.
that's it. And that's what we, yeah.
So it
And they
is-
really don't because they got so much equipment that's, I mean, we're fixing it slowly, but
Yeah.
they got a lot of
Right,
equipment
I
that's
don't-
basically wore out.
they would have a little bit of operation, but in the end, 2 years from now, you're gonna have to borrow to fix that operational hole,
Right.
construction hole.
Yeah, it's whether that hole or this hole, which,
But we can't borrow money to replenish our cash.
You can in this case, because it's a judgment
judge-
against you.
right. And, or you could borrow against insurances.
Yeah, insurances is the other statutory thing.
Yep.
I wouldn't recommend insurances yet.
No.
That's our savior 5-7 years from now.
I mean, I think the proper thing to do here is to fight that these are state mandates. The state says this is where he has to go. The state should be paying that. Now,
We don't disagree. I mean,
yeah, it's all tax dollars at the end of the day, but the state is the one telling us in these mandated programs, you have to go there. We need to take our fight to them rather than us try and figure out how we wiggle through the system and get our cash back. I mean, and I think it's a pretty tough pill to swallow to
It
go to
is
taxpayers
yeah.
and say, we're gonna borrow money so that we can put it in our cash account. So we've got it for an emergency rainy day.
but we're
That's-
not putting it in our cash to go up. But we're saying we had this cash account. It's gone now. We just spent it on these two people. We're getting back to zero. We're negative 400. We're going to zero. We're not going from 0 to 400 just in case. So it's we're not building it up for the insurance. We're saying, oh darn, we didn't tax you up front. It happened. I need to tax you to catch it up. We go down every year, 3 times a year, and talk to the legislators about these mandated services. I'll talk a little bit more about there is some relief coming, but not in these situations today. But again, we got to get through the budget process. We got to get the whole package. We got to see where we're at. If we're already like, oh, right up against the line, maybe we wait a year and don't do this and just see where we end up a year from now. But I don't want to push it 3 years down the road and then go, oh crap, we're down to we're right on the line and we need $1 million to make them whole again because we didn't do it for the last 3 years. So $300,000, $400,000 increase on the levy is a buck or two. When you do $1 million, it's all of a sudden $30. Well, it adds up. So net new construction's looking okay based on history.
it should be.
But again, that's 80,000. It doesn't cover insurance. It doesn't cover software. It doesn't cover anything. I always get frustrated when you're talking to the bigger counties and they're like, oh, our net new construction was $2.8 million. And it's like, well, we got 80. Their insurances are also 20 million and ours is 2. So ratio wise, it's not much different. Net new construction, what other, we're looking at our general revenues, which this is where the state says, hey, we're helping you. I don't know what more you want, but looks like our general revenues are going to go up 4%. So that's pretty good. Historically, we got nothing. So, or very little. So 4% there. I don't know the effect, but the clerk of courts did get additional funding, which is what we've been fighting for. We wanted 90 million and we got 20. Or so, I don't remember the numbers, but the state did put additional funding for clerk of courts, which will help. I don't know how they're going to distribute that. The land conservation got a big bump it's not big, a bump where they're guaranteeing one full-time employee paid for, and then 50% or 75% of the second one. So we're going to get a little bit of increase in Evan and zoning and land conservation. The biggest one, which is not a savings today, but it's a savings long run, is Governor Evers vetoed the cost of Lincoln Hills and the other detention center. Right now, it's about $1,600 a day, 15 something a day. The joint finance and both houses increased that daily cost to $2,500. So they went up $1,100 some bucks, I think it was. So it went to $2,500 when Governor Evers got the went to sign the budget.
Line item view.
He line item, well, he Vanna Whited it, so he took one number, and so instead of $2,500, it's now $500. So we would have been paying 100 or 1,500 a day in today's dollar. Next year, we'd only pay 500 if they go to a high cost facility.
We don't have any residents there,
At this time, we don't.
but you could.
Right, we talked about some counties, if you got an individual that went there for 1 year, it'd be like $1 million by the time you're done. So if it was $2,500 a day. So it could save us if we have an issue. Right now, we've been, knock on wood, lucky not to have a individual go to those facilities.
What about he vetoed, or the legislature didn't include the, is it Knowles grant
Yeah.
program? Do we have to, are we good? Should we be concerned about that? Cause we use that for trails and stuff like that.
No, the Knowles Nelson, the way it currently is just easier access, right? When we need the snowmobile, the ATV money, the boat landings, it was easy. With it not being in the full budget, they'll have to recreate that program outside of it. That's every indication we got was now it's just, you can't buy, there'll be a different one for purchasing land through the DNR, but those programs that helped us with boat landings and all that stuff would just be recreated, and it would be a
Or
different
shifted into
process.
different programs
Yeah,
that they
different
already have.
process. Yeah.
They want this period to just be redefined as.
We can't
how it's
guarantee
funded.
that, but the way we understood it is they're going to try to reestablish
Right.
those avenues, those areas. The last one I have doesn't affect anybody till 2027, but with the federal budget and the SNAP stuff going away, we're one of 8 states that was getting funding for it. So it's $35 million that we would be on the hook for as a state. And what it happens is we, through, I think it's economic support, allow people to qualify for those programs. There's a test that each one takes. And if you have a greater than 5% error rate, you no longer get 100%, you get like 80%. If you have a 10%, you get like 90% funding. There's like a different funding structure. So we don't know how the state's going to cover that $35 million. We're assuming it's going to get pushed onto the counties because we're doing the service for the state. And what's frustrating is the counties that are really bad at it will get they won't pay, they'll still get 100% because if you're above a certain rate of error, you're going to be able to get the money. Where if we were a good one and we were at 5% error rate, which means you either underpaid somebody or overpaid somebody that shouldn't have got the funding, then we get penalized and we'd have to come up with levy money of the difference. So
You know what the potential of that is?
35 million for the state. I don't know
We
what
don't
it would,
know how
ours
they
would
hit
be.
us, right.
There's no indication yet.
You can't divide it by 72.
No.
I hope not. That would be bad.
And they never do it that way.
No, yeah.
Too easy.
Too easy. Probably per person or something. But if they do it per person, then we'll have to put levy into it anyways because we wouldn't get enough money to even afford the employee to do the program.
Right.
So usually it's a base plus per person. Above my expertise down at the state. So those were the lowlights and highlights of the budget. We'll work on it. No major equipment, the borrowing looks good except for TJ's area. Again, we have some storage needs. The last time we did a storage project was 10 years ago. He's looking at about $500,000 for that, which would go into borrowing. The radio project, which I'm keeping outside of the budget, we did get our first quote. It's about $1.2 million. With that $1.2 million, though, we do 4 projects in one. We know we need new squad car video recording devices. We need new body cams. And then there was something with the drones. The DJI drones are no longer going to be, you can't use their software. So there's a software program that you can use through Motorola. Well,
So you're keeping it on the budget because you're anticipating a grant?
No, I'm anticipating using the bug tussle funding. So if I can,
Okay.
once we lock down what this project's gonna be, the goal is to, Bug Tussle's paying us 40 basis points on any dollar that's outstanding on the loan. So right now we have like 60,000 came in. We should get another 60 this year. So we're already at 120,000. We're hoping we can use that for the payment, so it's not a burden to the levy. So we'll still take a loan out for it, but it won't be levied loan.
Yeah. So if that all works out, that was a good move.
Right.
Yeah.
We know the problem is right now I have to work with Northway because they included 4 projects in one. I need to know how much the body cameras are, how much the squad video is, and how much this other program is, because maybe those fit in a different area of our budget. And then now the radio project's only 800,000, which makes it really easy to pay with the bug tussle stuff. But I also haven't figured out what the cost of the bug tussle.
We gonna see any construction this year?
I don't know. Right now I am working with Bug Tussle to create an MOU to get everything in place. Well, it'll be a rider on the contract of what we get, what they're expected to do for us, what area of every tower we get, what building area we get, who has to supply the generator and the equipment and all that. So that might add another 300,000 to this project. So I don't know where we're at.
They'll want us to pay it all.
No, I think they've been pretty good with us because they have to have that equipment there anyways. So like we're talking battery walls instead of generators. So we're in my contract with them. I'm saying I want a 72-hour battery wall, meaning if the power goes out, everything on our tower and their tower, I don't care about their, but everything on our equipment would run for 72 hours. That gives plenty of time for their service people to get there with a generator truck, rather than have 12 generators. In our case, we need 6 towers. So we'd have, instead of paying for 6 generators, we'd pay for 1 generator. We wouldn't. They would have 1 generator truck available because the chances of Park Falls Tower and Catawba's Tower needing a generator truck at the same time, slim to none. Plus, they have 500 other towers. They have multiple trucks that they could send up to power in a long, an emergency situation. Plus, we could get a truck too if needed in a short term.
This is just a comment. You don't have to respond, but you said the drone,
Oh,
that's brand new and it's already obsolete.
It's not obsolete. It's right. So we have whatever software. I don't. If you follow anything with the drone world, so DJI is a software company out of China, and our federal government continues to say that supposedly there potentially could be this code in the software that runs those, that they're harvesting all the data that whenever somebody takes a video. So we have software. This would be a software that would prevent that if it's allegedly true. I don't know if it is. I can't say it's true.
Okay.
So the drone's still good. The software needs to be updated. It's a year old. It's technology. Any other questions on the budget? I finished my Post-it note.
That we didn't.
Any other comments regarding the budget?
So is that radio, is the sheriff's department getting critical as far as? Because it doesn't seem like there's any end or start as far as bug tussle is concerned. I don't see any towers going up.
I would say what we did a good job at saying we know it's coming, right? We know in the next 3 to 5 years, this was, a year ago, we knew in 3 to 5 years our equipment was going to need to be replaced. We needed different equipment. So I would say critical comes in 2 years from now when we're starting to not be able to replace things because they're way out of service. Where like a radio right now, we have we can get parts, but it's eBay, right? It's not the end of the world, but in 3 years, 4 years, that's when the
All right, so we got a window yet.
Yes, yep, and we worked with Bobby quite a bit on that. The sheriff has kind of handed it over to Bobby as his project, like we used to do with Brian Roush. And say, you're the lead on this. We've been working on it when we can.
Anything else for the budget? Okay, well, let's just start.
Anybody got any resolutions on how to fix that? Those things? Any income streams we want to talk
We'll
about?
get back to Okay, thanks for the budget update. Next, number 12, update Price County Airport property tax procedure regarding personal property building, this buildings, fixtures, or improvements.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about this when we were talking about the executive report, but we all met, we talked about this last time. You guys approved to do a survey out there using some of the funds out at airport that we had available. I contracted or requested that Quest do that survey. The reason we chose Quest is our county surveyor. So they'll do it as much on the time we already have, but then they can also come and work on a Tuesday instead of just Mondays. I think he's here Mondays. They estimated about $12,000 to do the whole area and get that done. They didn't give me a timeline. Do you remember?
That we want it done before November, I think she said 15th at the.
Yeah, they know there's a timeline. I don't
Yes.
remember if
Wanna
he said
come
it was a
before
2
tax
week.
season.
Yeah, yep. So we
Yes.
want to get it all done so that not this year's taxes, but 2027 taxes can be, or tax-
2026.
2026 collection 2027 would be on the books.
Yeah.
So we'll be working through that project.
Okay, if there's no comments regarding that, we'll move on to annexation, redrawing supervisor lines update. I'll let the clerk pick
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. So there was a land annexation. This is just a brief history for 3 people from the city of Phillips to the town of Elk, and it affects voting. And a few months ago, we had 2 choices to either redraw supervisor lines or create a special ward for 3 people. So we made a motion to redraw the supervisor lines to include those 3 voters into the town of Elk. But right now, there are no new updates, and it is very much being worked on. So I will update you when I have more definitive answers.
So nothing new there. Any questions? Obviously, won't get an answer, but we can have her look into something if you have any questions. Hearing none, go on to 14 monthly vouchers. Everybody seen it? Motion to approve by Barstrom, second by Polachek. Any discussion? Okay, I have a few things. Yeah, well, I know. Somebody's got to do it.
Services, Bob always asks.
Okay,
What did the Best and Frederick do for almost $11,000?
that's a good question.
That's the lawyer we use for the HR stuff, Michael Best. And
Okay,
Frederick,
so it had to do with HR with
Yeah.
that.
couple different things,
Okay.
but the majority was the one that we worked, or you were aware of.
What's Park Place referrals or renewals, I should say?
That's
That's
equipment
IT.
for IT. So Park Place is a third party vendor so we buy like storage. They're sands, they're called storage sands. The sands company will give you a 5-year warranty, and then they go, oh, it's out of service, buy new ones. Park Place comes in and says, we'll warranty work that for the next 5 years. So we use Park Place as a third party vendor to warranty long-term
Okay, so it has
hardware.
to do with hardware?
IT hardware.
Just a comment. I'm sure there's no way to change this. Well, we're paying over $10,000 for a Microsoft license, and then we got Office 365, $3,800 separate. But
Yeah,
it's just a
so-
comment.
Right. Some might be our servers. So we have server licenses. That might be the Microsoft. The Office 365 is per employee, per month, per
Per thing-
item.
item
So
that you're
like,
doing.
if you have email, it's $1.35. If you have Word, it's 35 cents. If you Excel, it's 90 cents. And then you get a license per person. And again, I'll just vent. But the problem we have is like, if you have a new employee, you add them, but it's a minimum of so many months. If they leave, you can't get rid of them. So you still pay for them. But yet the day you start, it's
Mhm.
it's annoying. So you have to manage it really well because, that person has to be on, you cancel them, but you continue pay for like 3 months.
Yeah.
Right?
There's nothing you can do because they're the only game in town, basically.
And TJ and I joke about it. As soon as we figure out how this all works, they're going to find a new way to charge us. And
Sure.
like, cause it used to just be, here's your lump sum. You pay $100,000. It's everything for your company because you have 100 employees. Then it went to, just for the emails, we're going to charge you. And then it's just for the servers.
And then within the program itself, like Adobe, you can have
Oh,
just
yeah.
the regular Adobe to reader, but if you want the Adobe to make changes and stuff, that's a whole nother level. And
Yeah.
then if you want, it's
I blame this all on Mercedes. If you bought a Mercedes, you got a button that says I'll heat your seats, but you can't use that unless you pay $1.35 a month subscription. So it's, you bought the software, you can use Adobe, but in order to actually use Adobe, you need $1.35 a month.
Well, I can remember when Microsoft Office was on a disk, and you just installed the computer.
Right? It was like,
You
cool.
didn't pay extra.
Yep.
You bought the program.
You got a code that
licensed it
said
for
this
one
is who you
computer,
were.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So I will say once we figure this out, it'll turn back to like, we're better off just charging lump sums, or
yeah.
who knows?
How many copiers do we have? Moving on.
Ooh,
There's a whole lot. Is every one of those line items for a separate copier? We have that many copiers?
That's for each department. So when you
We
see the
charge
line,
each
we
department.
Oh,
charge
you
each
divide,
department.
okay,
Yeah,
all
we
right.
divide
So
all
we
the
don't have,
charge.
each line item doesn't represent a copier. I
No,
was-
we have more copiers than the line items.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have.
Because even like upstairs and
Well, if you
the
look
third
at the clerk's
floor.
office,
they have one. Oh, we
No.
have all the little so
Oh.
it's printers too.
printers. Not
That's
just
right.
copiers,
In that one?
printers. Yep, even that one.
Yeah. So they
Okay.
charge you like 0.001 cents per page to
Yes.
manage them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's true. I
Any
forgot about printers.
other discussion regarding vouchers? Okay. All those in favor of approving the vouchers signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Vouchers are approved. Date of next meeting is August 14th, 2025. And now we'll move on to 16 closed session announcement, motion to adjourn to closed session pursuant to the exemption in Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 1C for considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility and for the purpose of. In this case, it's county administrator performance review. So I look for a motion to go into closed session. Moved by Barkstrom, second by Polachek. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. We're going to go into closed